Good morning. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of The Future of Email. My guest today, this is going to be the guys who've been around conversation. Jay Schwedelson, founder of Subject Line, president of Outcome Media, and guy with a whole lot of experience in this media space. Jay, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, blowing a conference business on top of it, so we'll talk about that as well. It's probably impossible to summarize in the length of an elevator trip, but the work that you do and the people you work with who do things for clients, what's the focus? What's the commonality?
Yeah, so we really call ourselves a media agency now, a direct response media agency called Outcome Media, focusing obviously on outcomes. We are in traditional direct response channels like direct mail, but we're also very heavy in the email space. We're heavy in podcast advertising, digital advertising, paid social, things of that nature. We also have some thought leadership stuff, so some free tools out there like subjectline.com that people use to check their subject lines. And then we just launched this crazy events business we can get into, but basically we're a media organization focused on stuff that's measurable.
Gotcha. Media organization stuff that's measurable. Okay, I like that distinction. You mentioned it, and I definitely wanted to talk about it. So maybe we could start there. Subjectline.com. Did I see that you just celebrated Subject Line number 15 million?
Yeah, it's crazy. Subjectline.com has been an interesting ride for us because I never anticipated having a website that we put out there. And what happened was, this is going back 11 to 12 years ago, we're doing a lot of email work for our clients. And invariably, what do they ask? They say, what's the subject line? And, we try to come up with, here's a subject line. Let's go with it. See how it does, And internally, we were just pulling it out of, making it up as we went along. And we're like, there's got to be a better way. Maybe we can make a tool. So we made this little tool internally where all of our, team members can go in and put a subject line, and it aggregated information from all the campaigns we were doing, all the time we were sending it, like what was making something open more or less. Was it a word? Was it a bracket? Was it an exclamation point? Whatever it was. And we made this tool, and it would spit out it was a very simple tool. And, it was going well for it. I said, what, maybe we should let other people do this thing. Yeah. So I went on GoDaddy. I'm sitting on my couch one night, 11, 12 years ago. I go, what should we call this thing? I'm like, well, I should call it subjectline.com, So I went on there, and I remember it was like $500. Where it was, oh, that's expensive for, a URL. I'm like, screw it. So we buy subjectline.com. We put up the thing, and I had no intention of people really start to use this thing, but lo and behold, people started checking their subject lines, and we added more and more to it. So now you can go there, you put in your subject line, it gets you a score, how good or bad it is. And it's very basic. We don't pretend to make it some sort of fancy, AI or something, crazy mathematical, whatever. We want it basic, and really it's for the masses to be able to say, okay, am I missing any low-hanging fruit that can get my emails to get open? And it has a bunch of different information, whatever. So yeah, we just checked our 15 millionth subject line. We're really proud of that. And the thing I'm most proud of is that it's totally free, and that's what we want, just to have a tool for the whole planet to use. And so that's been fun.
That's quite something. Do you remember what the 15 millionth subject line is?
It was so lame too. Somebody asked me that, so we looked it up. And the problem is, when people go there, they'll check they'll put one subject line in, they won't get the score they like, so they'll check 10 more.
Yeah.
Right. Until they get the score they want. But it's very join our webinar tomorrow. Something very lame. It's not like Batman is cool or something. It's very lame. So it's anti-cloud.
The subject line, and by subject line in this case, I'm talking subject line in email, as are you. It's a funny artifact because it's a little thing, but it's huge.
Huge. It's everything. It's everything.
It's everything, right? The way email has evolved to work, if that's lame, doesn't matter which put inside the envelope, does it?
It's wild because, we work with these big brands, and what do? They'll come up with the greatest offer or piece of content that they worked forever on. They paid $1 zillion for. Then their agency develops this creative. Oh my God. And then legal approves it, and it meets their brand guidelines. And now they're ready to send it out. And we're like, well, what's your subject line? They go, I don't know. They'll spend 3 seconds. If they don't get that thing right, who cares? Who cares about all the other stuff you just worked on? It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
The other thing I love about the subject line is it doesn't matter if you're a small one-person company or you're Google or whoever. We all get the same real estate.
That's
We all get the same real estate to try to stand out with. And so it's not like a lot of other media where you could spend a boatload of money and you're the top listing or you're this, you're that. We get the same chance. Everybody's equal. And I like that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm delighted to hear you say that because we were chatting beforehand. One of the things that matters to me about the email space is the level playing field, the sort of democratization of a digital channel. So many other channels are owned and dominated or have gatekeepers. And email, you've got this still surprisingly level playing field, in which the subject line is a critical tool. Critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, from a business perspective, that's why I leaned into doing email because it is decentralized. I'm not a huge fan of, like for example, Facebook dominates, right? Or Google dominates search.
Yeah.
It's not really fun in terms of what I do for a living, being an agency guy, to play in a space that's dominated by one or two providers. That's why email is cool because you need help. You need service providers to kind of wrangle it all together because it's so crazy and complicated.
It is. Yeah, it is crazy and complicated. And maybe that's an artifact of no ownership, no gatekeeper, not even no gatekeeper, but like no real big gorillas. Like you can name a couple, but they're actually not that big.
Yeah, that's right. There's no one dominant force in email.
Yeah.
And if it is, it won't be the same in 5 years from now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's actually true. Well, okay. So that's a little bit about why both of us like hanging around here. I'm intrigued about one little thing. The subject line, that short, you get a few words and maybe you get who it's from to try and influence that all important next step. Have you guys taken the expertise from that and done any work in the, still reluctant to say this, texting world?
Yeah, SMS, we really don't play in that space. It is a space into itself for sure. A lot of people do use the subject line tool for stuff like their blog posts, headlines, and things of that nature. One of the other big things about subject line that we try to do is undo some of the old school myths that are in this industry, which drive me bananas. So, and you like the reason, for example, you go to the spam folder or the junk folder, right? If we were on 10 years ago, everything was content. It was the words that you wrote in your subject line, the characters, capitalizations, the exclamation points that you put in your body copy or the subject line. And, unfortunately, even though technology has changed and the primary reason you're filtered is because lack of engagement, reputation of your IP address or your domain, there's still this proliferation of, articles and misinformation that you have to avoid all these words. Here's all the spammy words and the trigger words and don't say this and don't do this. And when in reality, if you go to your inbox, you'll see every major marketer doing all the things that you're supposed to technically avoid because you're going to get filtered. But of course you're staring at your inbox and there they are. They're right in your inbox. You're not getting filtered. So one of the things that we try to do is try to dispel some of these myths that are based on legacy information, because part of the problem with the email community is that there's a foundation of information that's old and it just doesn't get updated and shared to the masses. In my yeah, that's my soapbox.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think you're right about that. And it's not like you can go to industry body X and say, I'd like to be a member and where's the guidebook for email?
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Doesn't exist.
Well, the industry is a little interesting, and I have my own issues with whatever we call the industry, because I think that there's one of the reasons we're starting the event that we're doing. I think there's two different sides of this industry. There is people that are uber sophisticated that are parts of these, different groups and go to a handful of these conferences. It's the same, frankly, 1,000 people that hang out. And, we could rattle off the names and they're all going to be the same 1,000 people are there. And then you have big user conferences, the Adobe Summits and Inbounds, great conferences, but they're user conferences. And in the middle, you have, there's 25 million businesses in this country. All of them are using email,
Yeah, all the music.
and 99% of them are not involved with any of those. And the associations, the DMA is gone, and the ANA is great. The ANA is not about direct marketing, really. And it costs $1,000 to attend one of their things. So these 20 million marketers that don't really know how to get educated, they're lost in the middle. And that's hard,
Yeah.
But,
and that group, I mean, you said it, I'll ask you about it. That rather large group in the middle, is that at least part of the target audience for your new conference undertaking, Guru Conference, correct?
Yeah. So I'll tell you about what we're doing there. So I really building off the whole idea of subject line of trying to put out free content for the masses. I personally felt frustrated that when the Direct Marketing Association went away, that there's really not something for the average marketer. The average marketer doesn't understand all the little pieces of deliverability and all the average marketer. Where can they go to learn about email? And they can't spend all the money to go to the conferences. They're not part of the 1,000 people that go to the same, insider clubby type stuff. And the user conferences are really that. And there has to be something else. So we said, we're going to start up a free conference, a virtual conference. And we're going to make a 2-day conference, and we call it a Guru Conference. And we're making it 100% free. The whole thing's free. And we're lining up major speakers. And we said, let's see and we're talking about deliverability and creative and best practices and all this stuff, B2B, B2C, good for any type of marketer. And let's see if anybody's interested. I didn't know if they would be, right? So we put it out there. We said, this is what we're doing. And it's in November. And to my shock, as I sit here now, we announced this a few months ago. We just passed 5,000 registrations.
Wow.
And we have a boatload of sponsors. We're inundated with people that, want to speak and all this. And we're tracking towards 10,000 registrants, which would put it as the single largest, virtual email marketing conference that's ever happened. And so we're not just going to do this in November. We're planning for 2023 different disciplines. We're going to do one on direct mail, podcast advertising, whatever, and they're all going to be free. We're going to try to just share as much knowledge as we can with the marketing industry as possible. And so that's what we're doing.
Congratulations. I'm amazed you had time to talk to me. That's quite a rocket ship to launch, man.
Yeah, we're excited. We're super excited. We really are. And, hopefully, I want the average people realize that there's more people closer to just seeing everybody and hitting send.
Yeah.
There are the people that are doing dynamic content.
Don't pick on me, buddy. Don't pick on me. But yes, you're absolutely right.
Right. We got to help those people.
I agree. I mean, I've talked with, what was the conversation maybe a year ago, sizable company. And the guy actually said to me, I think it was in an email response, yeah, Fred keeps the list and hits send in Outlook. And it was just yep.
Right.
Still happens. A bazillion people in the BCC equals email marketing. And it's true. It's true. That's a viable way to get it.
It's more common than, all the fancy stuff that we hear about,
the inside baseball kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Look, I love it all. I love only influencers and EDC and all this. I love it all, but that's not really what's going on the planet.
Well, and to recast that and sort of say the same thing over again with a nobody dominates it channel that is accessible to any small, medium, large business out there. For the most part, they're all just making it up and pushing the send button.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what else is? I think what I see is there's some companies have, an email marketing manager or call a CRM manager, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of companies have a marketing manager, right? And that marketing manager is supposed to be a catch-all for
everything.
Good luck to you. I mean, that's just not happening. You have to know search and social and websites and email, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's why you got to be, a jack of all trades and a master of none. And we have to help everyone get a little better at being a good jack of all trades.
Well, just the numbers response to your new conference, right, says, holy mackerel, there's an appetite for knowledge that isn't just another pitch.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. That's what we're trying to do, is make sure that it's not like, this is not a selling thing. I have no, look, how am I going to make money? If we get enough sponsors, right? We turn this into, it's going to be a sponsorship thing, but it's not where the sponsors are, doing all the sessions and all that type of stuff. I don't have an agenda at all. I just think that there's a gap in the marketplace, and I just feel like everybody needs to get up to speed on what the hell's going on. It changes so much. That's why this podcast is great, because you can hear from lots of different industry people on totally different perspectives.
Yeah, I got to say, it's been I think our conversation is number 65 or something like that.
Wow.
Bill Moyers, remember Bill Moyers? Journalist?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
About email. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Bill Moyers said many, many years ago, it's the privilege of the journalist to be educated in public.
Right.
That's kind of like, oh, yeah, I get to talk to Jay, and he's been in email for quite a stretch, and he was DMA at the kitchen table with his parents, and I bet he's got a whole bunch of stuff that is going to be very interesting to listen to.
Well, I don't know about that, but it is fun to talk about. And it makes me a little sad though too, because so many, first of all, everybody that I was doing this with is now really not there anymore. So many companies have disappeared, which is really sad. And then, everybody's always kind of discovering email. They think that, or discovering direct marketing for that matter.
Yeah.
They think that, oh, this is new. Which really, it's not.
Well, you've got the background. I reference that you've got the background in direct marketing before all the digital stuff, and I find that that's surprisingly true of people who stick around in the digital marketing space. An astonishing number of them have a direct marketing background, a discipline, or just a Jones for it, frankly, and because a lot of the dynamics are the same, right? People are people.
Yeah. And now also, I think with the explosion of direct to consumer, almost we're about 50% B2B, 50% consumer.
Oh, interesting.
But when you see brands like Procter and Gamble actually doing direct to consumer marketing, they're sending out emails, trying to get detergent sold directly one-on-one from an email. That's like, the world has really come a long way, for that to be the case. And so really, it was sad when the direct marketing changed its name. The Direct Marketing Association, before it got sold to they changed their name to the Data and Marketing Association, because they were so embarrassed by the phrase direct marketing.
Correct. Interesting.
It's like, it was a tainted word. It means you're junk. It means you're a spammer. It means you're terrible things. It means you're 1-800 or whatever. But it's all come full circle where, okay, maybe we should have realized that is okay. That is what we're doing. Direct to whoever market.
Well, we've got a set of challenges that are difficult to address. Let me see if I can parse this really quickly. That arc up and over of direct marketing, embarrassing wrong associations. I understand that, because the digital commons, with not a whole lot of rules, did get overgrazed. Arguably still is, right? Anybody got every message in their inbox read and relevant? No, I didn't think so. Right? Bad actors abusing the direct channel are many.
Yeah, 100%.
And there are industries and sub-industries of sort of trying to grapple with that and self-police that, and keep a bit of a firewall between legit direct and, oh my God, would you leave me alone direct? And I don't think that's gone away. The fact that P&G can actually say, you know what, this is going to work for us. They wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't work for it. And it tells you, okay, there's something there. I mentioned text, and this is an interesting one to parse, because it's the new kid on the block in a way. And I talk with companies who work in that space, and will arm wrestle about email versus text, which is a dumb thing to arm wrestle over. And everybody has the same reaction at the end of the day. Like, I'm going to be really careful who gets to send stuff to my phone number. right? Like, do you want your phone going off all the time? I don't.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
High priority interrupt. We've kind of accepted and started to build or buy tools to help us deal with the fact that our inbox is fairly open and ding, 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 ding all the time. Because I don't think we can change it. Like the protocols are set and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But navigating through that and staying relevant and getting opened, which is not just the subject line, but who the heck sent it, arguably, right?
Absolutely.
It is a very difficult puzzle for that 25 million small, medium, even large business to jump into and do well, because the rule book's hard to find.
100%. And the rule book also, there's so many variables. I mean, to your point, obviously you have your brand and you have all these other variables at play that, what works for this company and this offer is not necessarily going to work for this company, and this offer.
Yeah.
And, it's almost more teaching about the concept of testing, more importantly than whatever it is this is going to work for you, best practice, whatever. Or, I like to focus on pitfalls to avoid more than things that are really going to work well, because if you could eliminate kind of the stuff you really shouldn't be doing, then you have a better chance of it all working. And SMS is a super interesting channel. It's highly responsive. I mean, on a first contact basis, certainly more responsive than email, probably, if not the most responsive channel. I don't know what is above it on a pure contact level. I think the challenge is, number one is acquiring data that is compliant. I think that's a massive, massive hurdle. I also think that, we will see privacy legislation, federal privacy legislation in the next few years. And I think that that SMS channel is going to be even tighter to build your list around. So I think I don't know that email is going to face the same challenge as the SMS will. So it's a hard channel. It's a great channel if you can navigate it.
If you can navigate it. Yeah. I hope we get that legislation, and I hope that email isn't kind of thrown in one stack or another without any consideration for what its particular dynamics are. Last time I checked, because we have no guerrillas, we have no lobbyists.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the lobbyists, though, you're right. We have some. I mean, ANA is out there lobbying and IAB, but really emails, that's not on their radar.
Right.
In my opinion, the lobbyists are going to come from the big companies.
Yes, it is.
Right. And there are companies. I mean, look at a company like a Zoom Info, for example. Right. Zoom Info now is, I don't know what the valuation is, like $10 billion, whatever. And essentially, I mean, you could go to Zoom Info today, buy a list, download it instantly, and then, send to it. And they're definitely going to be focused on making sure that is still viable, mechanism, viable way to whatever, and so I think that the companies are going to be the ones that really, I think, try to lobby this the hardest.
And long rant. I'm working on a talk, trying to pull some of these threads together, because we're definitely at a change point, broadly speaking, and U.S. has lagged. We either lead or lag, and if it's privacy and convenience stuff, we're definitely the laggards, right?
Yeah.
Right. EU.
Well, look at the political emails. I mean,
my word.
Wait until like September, October.
Yes.
Boxes are going to be.
Get it.
You ever want to see what email will look like, 3 or 4 years from now? You always just look at political emails now, because they are the most aggressive.
Yes.
The tactics they use are crazy, and the volume is insane. And it's like seeing the future. It's always like 3 or 4 years ahead of what we're doing now. It's unbelievable.
Do you guys, as an
Never. We will not touch it, not with a 10-foot pole. And I'm down there in Florida too, and Florida's the Wild West. I don't even want to get into that. So I wouldn't want anything to do with any of that. That's crazy.
I have read about some of the volume numbers, and my jaw's on the table. It's like, how would you not bozo filter someone who's hammering you that hard? 20 plus messages a day from the same. Wow. Like,
it's just amazing that all the political emails, I don't care what side of the, what party you're involved with, they're equally horrible, right? And I love how they are immune. They don't, they don't have to follow any laws. That's the best part, which is why ultimately I don't think that email is going to face the same things as SMS and whatnot, because all these politicians want to be able to pound their lists. I mean, just pound their lists.
Yeah.
So it's just a crazy, and I can only imagine
good point.
what's going to happen September, October.
Yeah. 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 And none of us have the attention or checkbook to respond to each of those meaningfully. So like the base equation is just baloney right out of the gate.
I'm interested to see if it's a boat anchor on email in general, that you go to your inbox in October, there's so much crap, volume of this nonsense and this noise that it weighs down a little bit on all the rest of our emails that we're sending out. Because the level of bad stuff that's going to be filling up your inbox is just going to be exponential this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. Wow. Well, let's not depress ourselves.
Go there. That's not fun.
Wait, if your first conference is November?
November. Yep. We're doing them. Very excited.
Yeah.
And we're rolling out, we're figuring out different speakers, different stuff. And we're really also trying to make it a little different than some of these other email events that take place. I feel like sometimes email events, you have the same crew of people.
Yes.
Everyone's on a cycle, the same people speak in, the same voices, the same ideas. And so we're going to try to mix that up a little bit here and see if we can get some excitement going.
Nick, you yourself have spoken a good number of times at, I want to say Inbound, right? The HubSpot event. Yeah.
Yep. That's a great one.
HubSpot intrigues me.
Yeah.
As a company, how they've executed, like there are a lot of those 25 million folks who have at least some HubSpot thing somewhere in their ecosystem, which is like, it's like getting the keys to a supercar and going, I wonder if this thing's fun to drive. Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. HubSpot's a great platform, and it's a great community that they built.
Great. And a lot of content.
A lot of content, and Inbound is no joke. I mean, last year was virtual. I think they had 65,000 attendees.
Wow.
Dang, it's really insane. So this year, I'll be up in Boston this year, and they're doing it virtual and in person simultaneously. It's a massive event. And look, they do a great job. And these years, I call it a user conference. It's probably not fair to call it a user conference because they're not sitting there shoving HubSpot down your throat. They're really not doing that. Yeah. Whereas some of the other user conferences, they are in fact user conferences. I mean, I don't have a problem with, Dreamforce. I don't have a problem with Adobe Summit, but they are certainly user conferences. Inbound is more for everybody because that's also HubSpot's kind of vibe. They want to be for everybody. But you touched on something I think is really important, which is in general, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people in the email marketing space that are email marketers do is they onboard platforms. And this is not a HubSpot thing, it is in general. They get sold on platforms that have all these bells and whistles. And they wind up paying for things that they don't use 90% of the capabilities of the platforms they're on. Yeah. And then, a year in, they get frustrated, like it costs too much, or they're frustrated for whatever reason. Then they want to move to another platform. Yeah. It's this ongoing it's like they're the nomads. Like everyone just keeps wanting to, no one's ever happy with who they're with, or they're like, it's okay, it's fine, it's very expensive. Nobody ever on board what's good for them. They're like in some version of denial every time. They think they need more when they don't.
Well, I'll put on a tech vendor in the space hat, right? We want our business to grow, so we'll I'm crap at it, but we'll put on our sales hat and go, oh, this will actually help you. Right. Man, that is a highly dependent question. This will help you if you know what you're doing, have your data organized, follow even a modicum of decent practices, and if those things aren't true, doesn't matter what functions and features in the platform.
Right. 100%.
Yeah. And what, Yeah. Yeah.
And you need the person too. One of the
Yeah.
endeavors that we're working on in my business, or my outcome media business, is that we're trying to build what we're calling a verified consultant network. Because what we see is if you have a platform, you need help. You have HubSpot, you have Klaviyo, you have, Bluecore, you have, Eloquent. I don't care what you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need help. You need a human being that's really good at that. And invariably, that person is not working at that company. Right. And when you onboard, let's say you bring on Marketo. Okay, great. I'm Marketo. When you do a deal with Marketo, they go, okay, you get 20 hours of our consultant as part of your, instance or whatever. And then after the 20 hours, good luck to you. And that's kind of how all of these platforms work. You get allotted a certain amount of time. And then everybody's kind of lost in the wilderness. They don't know how to use their damn systems. And so we're trying to build up for every single platform, what we're calling verified consultants that we know. And we say, oh, you have a problem with whatever? Great. We're going to introduce you to this person. Because it's like, very rarely do you talk to any company and say, we love our platform. We have an expert on it internally, totally under control, and we're getting the most out of it. Like, I don't think I've ever heard anything.
Yeah. I
like
believe
that.
you. Yeah. I
Like,
believe you. Because it is a supercar problem. And if you get someone who's on top of it for your company, they're going to leave.
Oh yeah, 100%. Or they're going to cost way too much for you to bring them on.
Right.
And it's just like, and that's why you don't get anything out of your platform.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
You mentioned it. I think it's worth a quick riff. The cost too much. There is a funny dynamic about, I pick on email in particular here, that the sort of stepchild, no budget thing about email. Like, stats over and over say how effective it can be as a channel. And every email marketer I've ever talked to is like, we don't have enough time. We're too busy. We don't have the resources. Like, why is that writ large? That something that's effective basically is always sucking wind looking for resources.
Well, yeah, it's 100% true. Meanwhile, there is one stat that's floating around this industry, I would say, for the last 15 years, which I totally think is a misleading stat, but everybody uses, which it says, it was from the DMA, ironically, but now it's peddled by everybody, that for every $1 spent on email, it's a return of $46.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's the dumbest stat in the world. First of all, it's a load of garbage. Okay. It's not right. And it's so old. And it's based on like the smallest data set of all time. It has not been updated in 15 years. But if you go and you Google, like, what's the value of every $1 you spend, you'll see it everywhere.
Yeah.
That stat in and of itself is email, where we take information that is so old and legacy and we just run around with it for like ever. And that's it. It's like, it's just crazy. It's like stick an emoji in your sucker going, no, I can't do that. Everything will fall apart. Like, no, it's not true. Like, relax. Life will go on. So look, email is never going to be, it's the tortoise and the hare. It's people always think it's legacy. People always think that it's boring and that it's dying. I mean, email's demise has been going on, forever.
Yeah.
And it will continue being. What was going to kill email? AOL was going to kill email. Slack was going to kill email. Facebook Messenger was going to kill email. I can't even count how many people have come out with like all these different types of inboxes that will, stop email from getting in or this, that. I mean, every year something is killing email. But it's the cockroach of marketing. It's unfortunate that, we're both involved with it, but it is.
It is fascinating because it's a mess. It is fascinating because it's a cockroach, if you will. It's quite robust, right? When all is said and done, we're talking about 20-plus-year-old mechanisms.
Oh yeah,
that are working and keep growing at a ridiculous scale. What are we up to? 317 billion a day or something like that. It's like, holy mackerel, that's remarkable. Like, that's
100%.
remarkable that it's still working.
Yeah, and even look like with the Apple change, iOS 15. I mean, how many people said, email's going to die. My favorite part about it was, and I know you guys did a lot of work on this. I actually was on your site when it was all happening. You guys had like, there was good data on it in terms of open rate impact and all of that. And then every article came out and said, the open rate is dead. No one's going to track open rate, right? It's a dead metric. It's all focused on the click. It's all click, blah, blah, blah. Engagement's going to change. And yeah, probably for like the 1,000 most sophisticated email people, that's actually happening. But the funny part about the iOS 15 thing is when I talk to everybody, regular marketers, I would say 90% of them have not heard about the iOS 15 thing.
Yeah.
Even as of today, they don't even know it exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
They still are looking at their open rate and like, they're actually high-fiving themselves because they think that it's up.
It's going up. Yeah.
And they're doing great. They go, every conversation is, our open rate's great. Our click-through rate's not as good. Our click-to-open's not as good, but we're doing great. And they're like, so people are just living in the dark. I'm a big believer open rate's still really, really, really important as a directional metric, not as an absolute metric, because, you could create your own benchmarks, try to beat it still, even with the whole Apple thing. But it's just funny, like we live in this like small bubble. We think that everybody knows everything. No.
Well, I don't have these conversations to like pitch company stuff, but we did a ton of deep technical work, and like we've actually wrestled open rates back into statistical accuracy.
I actually saw that.
Saw that. But you know what? No one cares.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, my ESP has rates and I know that they're inaccurate, but that's fine. And I'm like, okay.
Like, no, you're 100% right. Cause I actually did. And again, I did see that you guys kind of like cracked the code where, there really wasn't, and I'm not just blowing smoke because I'm talking to you. There wasn't really anybody in the marketplace that came up with a solution.
Nobody
that I saw, at least, that kind of cracked the code. And you guys, and to your massive credit, you guys came up with a real viable, seemingly super accurate way to do that. And unfortunately, I believe what you're saying, which is nobody cares.
Yeah.
They're just like, basically everyone's operating. I just get it out. Just send it out. Did it go out? Right? Did anybody complain? Did we get any orders? That's like, they're just not, they don't care.
And I have to like, okay, take all of the peak and energy and put it in a ball and throw it in the wastebasket. Go, okay, we actually learned some really useful stuff, and it'll be valuable at some point, or it'll matter to somebody. Like if you're a publisher where the message itself is the thing, then knowing better, who opened is actually probably relevant to your business.
Yeah, I think super sophisticated email marketers would benefit massively from your tool.
Yeah, we'll get there. It's it was, if nothing else, it was one heck of a technical
I'm sure
undertaking. Like, wow, that was a fun ride. We have to learn some good stuff. We did some good stuff, so that's okay. Anyway, so how do you juggle the things you juggle? That's a lot of companies on your profile, man.
Oh yeah, it is, and it's your credit. I mean, to your point, it is a juggle. I don't know. I love all this stuff. I really do. And now that everybody's virtual, we're about 100 or so people running around between all the different stuff. And we took everybody virtual when the pandemic started. And then I decided to keep virtual. We decided to go permanently virtual. And that's been really helpful because we were able to onboard more people and consultants and stuff like that. So to scale up, that's been really a benefit for us. Which I never thought we could have been a virtual company before, but that's allowed us to be a little bit more flexible and kind of try to get stuff done.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. In the conference business, the fact that we're right now keeping it all virtual, it's not easy, but it's much easier lift than if we were trying to do stuff in person.
Live conference.
Because, I mean, in-person stuff is just a different animal.
I just got back from, Monday. I was up in Canada. I live near Canada. I was up in Canada in a town called Kelowna for the first live conference I've been to since the curtain went down. And I would guess attendance at that conference was maybe 25% of what they'd hoped for.
Wow.
To their credit, they did top tier small conference. Like they had the DJ, the lights, the screens, like they did it right. And it was delightful to be there. and they didn't have a virtual leg to it, which was the right decision for that kind of content. But I'm like, I think conference businesses to what you're doing have an interesting like three-forked road ahead of them. Do we go live only? Do we go hybrid? Do we go online only? Right? It's just like companies are facing that same forks in the road.
What's interesting is that I've never been, we launched this Guru events. That's the mothership of Guru Conference. And I'd never been in this business. I never put on a conference before. So I'd never spoken to sponsors before.
Yeah.
And so now we're having, all these conversations. We got a bunch of sponsors, which is great. But the sponsors actually prefer in person.
Yes.
They, they do not. And they don't love the virtual thing because they can't sell clothes, do whatever. So that dynamic was a little, I didn't expect that.
Interesting.
How much they were like, no, we want in person. I went to my first conference I've been to in a while, a couple of weeks ago. It was in DC, and there was about 1,000 people there. It was so funny though. So when you go to the registration desk, they ask you, do you want a green, yellow, or red badge? And I go to them, I go, I don't know what you're talking about. And she goes, well, green badge means you're willing to shake hands. Yellow means you only want to do elbow, and red means you only wait. And so I'm like, give me the green. Everyone's walking around there like, elbowing or waving. And it was just like, it was a whole situation. It was wild.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
this woman would come up to me. She was wearing a red, and look, I'm all for it. I'm very into vaccination, all that stuff. But she was there. She was wearing the red, which means don't go near her. And she had, mask on, the whole thing. And she's like, can I have your business card? So I go to give my business card. She goes, oh, I don't want to touch it. I go, okay, what do we do? And she goes, well, you just hold it up so I can take a picture of it. And I said to the woman, I go, listen, I love meeting you. I go, but if this is, if you're this like kind of like worried, which is fine. And I go, what are you doing here? It's like,
yeah.
Don't, it's just, it's a crazy world. It's just a crazy world.
Yeah. And we're fumbling our way back personally, professionally, and so on. Back to your sponsor thing for a second. It is a tough decision. I mean, I'll put on my tech, vendor hat for a second. Live sponsorships always drove me crazy because if you've got someone who's really good at conference sales and making the rounds and getting the intros, it pays off.
Yeah.
And if that's not your shtick, it's like, oh, how many thousands am I going to flush down the whole of the booth and all that other stuff? And the virtual conferences, like the early attempts at that a couple of years ago were, we did some sponsorships and it was like, that was kind of money flushed down the support the industry, help our friends in the conference business whole. And as it's reformulated, man, we got to be better than just a random sales conversation, or the virtual stuff is I don't know how the business model for that actually works.
I don't think, it's hard. It's hard. We've tried really hard to come out with, things that can lead to tangible, opportunities. Right. So, I mean, I'm not trying to promote like conference, but just ideas that we came out that we're doing. So for example, at the end of every session, when you do a virtual session, it has you say, it gives you rate the speaker, is this pretty good, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's what you do normally at every virtual session. So what we're doing is we're having a sponsor being able to ask, like 1 or 2 questions. Say, are you in the market, for a new platform, or do you need help with whatever? Yes, no, would you like to hear from so-and-so? And so that question is going to be, asked at the end of every session to, everybody attending that session. And then the leads are going to go to that. So we're trying to create things that you actually get an opportunity rather than just your logo floating around. So who cares about that, type of thing. But it is hard. It's a different animal.
It's a different animal. Yeah. And, we'll figure it out. This is a weird input, but the most useful conference I ever remember going to was on September 10th, 2001.
Oh, well, that's a crazy day. Almost.
Well, no, the next day was crazy.
Right.
But the conference, get this, I was a CIO at the time, big company. And the conference was on a cruise ship, and it was vendors paid, CIOs, folks like me got to go free. But because it was on a cruise ship and they had the sort of scheduled meetings with the vendor, like you signed up, if you're going to sit down with these vendors that you're interested in talking to. It took a lot of the random, who's really good at buttonholing people out of the conversation. And I had these awesome 30 or 45-minute slots to really dig in with the guys who were in the, I don't know, data warehouse or whatever the heck this space was. Like we were having surprisingly useful, I don't think we'll use you guys, but I really understand what your stuff does now. You really understand why we won't use you guys, and let's stay in touch and so on. Asterisk, being on a British flagged cruise ship on the next morning was a freaking strange experience.
Yeah, that
because they made us go into international waters and be out of contact all day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is bizarro.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, my 9/11 experience was distinct.
For me, I was in the city on the 10th, and on the 11th,
Yeah,
I was supposed to do an in-person class at the World Trade Center for the Direct Marketing Association, teaching them email basics, so email 101 on the 11th. And I was in the city. I came in on the 10th. I was supposed to be there on the 11th, and then it was going to be like, I don't know, like in the afternoon or something. And that was it. It was just the craziest thing. It was just the weirdest thing. So yeah, that was a crazy time in general.
yeah. I mean, last change event of that magnitude of what we're grappling with, post pandemic, of like, okay, the rules are different.
Yeah,
we'll sort them out.
Yeah.
Right.
Look, email's been a huge thing during the pandemic.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, because obviously not just a communication channel, especially also on the B2B side of marketing, because you couldn't send out direct mail anymore to people. You don't know where they are, right? You didn't know where to find people. And email is one of the channels that, you could find people no matter where they are.
Yeah.
So if anything, email went through even more of a renaissance, I think, during the pandemic, than even before.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right about that. I think we'll find the new rule book pull itself together and go, wow, that did work really well. But the practitioner who's doing it is probably so busy continuing to do it well. They don't have time to write the book.
100%. Yeah. Everybody's spinning a lot of plates. 100%.
Spinning a lot of plates, indeed. Well, you're spinning a lot of plates yourself. Well, I am looking forward to seeing your conference come to life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll have to talk offline about getting you involved. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. One parting question: What, if anything, do you think will be different about email in 3 to 5 years? The future of email question.
Yeah, that's the name of the podcast, right? I do think that eventually this whole idea of interactivity of emails will start to take hold. I think more, this whole idea of AMP and all this stuff. I know marketers are messing with it now. I do think fast forward 3 to 5 years, I think email will look more like websites that are being delivered. I think we'll get there. I do think that we'll get there. And my hope for email is that there's a level of sophistication that the average marketer has that they don't have today. That's my hope, that there's a proliferation of good information. But if you fast forward, I don't think it's going to be radically different. I mean, if you look back 5 years ago and to 5 years to now, I don't think it's that much different.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So I don't think that the form, and I don't think you're going to lose your from address and your subject line and your pre-header and your body copy. And
yeah.
I just don't see that happening. What do you think?
I think we've got a lot of work ahead of us to achieve the first part of your vision. And I've got some very strong opinions about how to get there, which I have to take the time to, push and write down and support and stuff like that. But I think the technical and standards work to make email more interactive is running into the freight train of privacy, and that it's going to make it even harder to pull that off. So I suspect it'll look more like today's than yesterday's, more like today's, and less like what we'd like it to be. If we've started to move in a richer, more media, more interactive direction, which is kind of that's my bag. Yay, great. I will be there pushing. I hope so. Right? I'm not going to stop pushing. I looked this up to fit into the talk I'm doing next week about all this stuff. You can still get a radio in a Tesla. And why am I talking about that? Radio is from the 30s. There's two standards. Your car has an AM FM radio, so does mine. And you can get an AM FM radio in a Tesla. Technologies don't go away, particularly communication technologies. They kind of jostle for what's their role and function, and they keep finding a role and function, and they don't actually go away, even when they're that old. It's $500 extra to get a radio in your Tesla, but you can get a radio in your Tesla. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And that is email. I mean, email's not going anywhere.
Not going anywhere. No, totally agree.
Unless everybody can collectively always remember every password and they don't need to do a forgot my password button, then email might have a problem. But until everybody can remember every password, I think we're safe.
That utility use of email, like that one's fascinating in and of itself. Like, we create systems, and when we were putting how does someone sign in? What did we do? Email the password, right? Like
That's it. Good. I don't know. All right. Social media will kill email, but by the way, you need email to
social media account. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, Jay, we could probably go for hours on this, which I would certainly enjoy, but I want to respect your time. Thanks so much for the conversation today.
This is awesome. Thank you for including me. It's a pleasure. And, I'm a big fan of what you're doing. Thanks.
Cool. My guest has been Jay Schwedelson, founder of subjectline.com and president and CEO of Outcome Media. Thanks, Jay.
Cool. Thank you.